Hello all, how are we? Lovely to have you here. Hello everyone. Sorry, I just had to I had a notification say that I was going to get a delivery between 1:20 and 2:20 today, and I said to Stephen, who's home from school now, he's finished for the summer, I said, what's the betting it's going to turn up at 2 o'clock? And it did. But at least it's done out the way now, so I'm not going to get any other surprises. So I just wanted to get him done and sorted, get Hazel quietened down, and so we can concentrate on doing what we're doing here. So nice to be here. Doesn't feel like I've been here for ages, but I'm pretty sure I was with you last week, wasn't I? Was I? I don't know. I've had an awful lot on this week. Been quite busy doing all sorts of bits and pieces. So lovely to have you all here. Who have we got? We've got Evelyn and Marion. Hi Marion. Hi Tracy. Are you back from holidays? Are you, Tracy? Oh, hi Mum. How are you? We've got Karen. Hello Tina. How's Tina doing? We've got Sharon and Mary. Linda from the US. And Melody, also in the US. She's on the road traveling. You're going through Ohio from Florida. Wow, that's a bit of a road trip you've got there. At least we can keep you company for at least an hour. At least an hour with us. So we've got Carol and Rebecca. Oh, hello, Helen. How are you? Kathy. Lots of familiar names and lots of new names as well, which is lovely to see. So I'm back with you today, back doing some stenciling. It feels like I haven't stenciled with you for such a long time, and stenciling and inks are just my favorite things to do. I love to show you how I stencil, what my thought process is, how the different how the different inks react. So yeah, I'm really happy to do this today. And it actually coincides with Lisa's pick of the week, which are the Magnolia stems, or the Magnolia stems, should I say, which it's available as the pick of the week. You would have had an email to let you know about that, but if you also go onto the website and search for pick of the week or Magnolia stems, then the duo set will come up. I've also, I think, popped the link in the description below the YouTube video as well, if you're watching on YouTube. So I'm pretty sure that link works. You can see that I've already stenciled it for you here, but I will just show you the set. It's a 5x7 set. Really, really pretty. Lisa's doing what she does best with her florals as well. It's a lovely set. I think you get an awful lot of use from this. So we have the 3D embossing folder, which is a 5x7 embossing folder. Oh, that's gone quite bright, isn't it? Okay, yes, so we have the embossing folder, which would be that way round. I haven't embossed mine at the moment, but I must remember to emboss mine later. The reason why I don't emboss generally on the lives is purely my fault. I forget to do it. And people watching me who watch regularly know I usually get to the end and I think, ah, I forgot to emboss. I know that I do. I just get carried away with the inking. So I'm going to do my absolute best to remember to use the embossing folder for you this time. We also have the layering stencils. Now, these layering stencils are in the slightly different formatted packaging. Nothing different visually at all. But what Lisa does now is she gives us the die for the design in with the layering stencils instead of the embossing folded, which is where they used to be. So you're still getting the same amount of projects, same packaging, same envelopes for the stencils, but you get the die. If there is a die associated with the design, you will usually find that in with the layering stencil. Okay, am I back? It looks like I am back with you. I can see your comments again. Yes, great. I don't know why it does that. It's an absolute mystery to me. But I don't think you certainly haven't missed anything, because I realised that for some reason I'd gone offline, so I wasn't chatting too much. I was just asking Tina, actually, did she have a big enough cup of tea to deal with all of those 50 cakes that she was tasting? That's not a bad day's work, is it really, Tina? Okay, so back again. Right, where were we? So I think I've gone through the sets with you. So this is the Duo, and as the pick of the week, I forgot to actually take a quick look at the price, actually, but I'm sure it'll be on a lovely price for you. But they're available as a Duo, so you get the complete collection. So I've really done nothing too fancy with this today, but I thought what I would do, because I shared a card into the group during the week with my first attempt at using the Colohr Shift. I'll just show you this one here, where I've got 2 lots of stenciling. Now this one is, oh, excuse my memory is horrendous. This is the spiral leaf, and I've just done a little bit of stencil in the background to add a little bit of extra detail, just to try something a little bit different. So I thought I would use that same technique on this card here. So if I just lift this up a little bit, I might even change camera. Let me just see, because that looks a little bit too bright to me. If I can, there we are. So you can see I've got some extra stenciling in the background here, and that gives us a little bit of interest. It means that you can make a completely flat card, as you can see there. I've got no extra layers on this apart from the sentiments, but it does give us a really nice background if you're not using any other die cuts or anything like that. So I thought I would do that, and I've also listed the stencils on the side that I'm using there. Now the versions of these stencils that I'm using are Lisa's originals from way back in the day when she first started. They have since been updated and they've been given their own branded packaging, and they also have the tabs on for the ultimate. But I have the bubble wrap. I'll leave you there, bubble wrap. So these are the original packaging, so you will get yours in the packaging with the Lisa Horser branding, and you also get the ultimate peg details on the side. We have the this is the Art Deco Petals, which is a lovely stencil. All of these are in stock, by the way. They are just single stencils, but they are called the Art Stencil range, and it just gives you the opportunity just to create really lovely backgrounds. So if you like your journaling, if you like mixed media, these would be great for that too, because they're sturdy enough to be able to put through any of your pastes, any of your pearl paste, your glitter paste, your neon pastes as well. Remember, you can use them with any of your sparkle sprays that Lisa has given to us, plus all of your inks as well. This one is the tiles as well. So I've used a combination of all of them, and I'll show you how we create that background in the back there. And then I have the sentiments, which I've stamped. I've double stamped with a couple of colours, actually. I've actually stamped them with the Colohr Shift, and I've just over inked them with a little bit of another colour, a darker colour of flint, just to give them a bit of a distressed look there. So I'm going to swap onto camera 2, because that copes with the close-ups a lot better. So you can see on the font there that there's a little bit of dark overstamping over the pink, just gives a little bit of interest as well. And I've also, I couldn't make up my mind which sentiment I wanted on there, so I've also done it in the green. But you can see that both sentiments obviously would work and both colours would work. And I quite like that look on the sentiment. If I get round to it, though, I'll show you how that was done as well. Now, while I'm still on camera 2 here, if I can perhaps, let me adjust the lighting a little bit on this one too. Bear with me. I don't know why that's disappeared. There we go. I want to try and show you the Colour Shift mica on there, because so I'm just trying to concentrate. It's really tricky. What I'm going to do, I'm going to swap back onto. Oh, that's very sensitive today. I wonder if I can show you on this one. Oh, you can perhaps see it just glistening there when I turn it. You get that when you look at the images flat on, you get the matte blending look, which is perfect because you get that beautiful blending. You can see the different graduations of colour that I've got in there, which is really simple to create. But when you turn it towards the light, you have, oh, you can see it just there. You can see the mica that's sitting there. So you get that little bit of bling, but you don't have, you can just see the little bit of shine. Can you, Karen? Yeah, it's so tricky to show you on camera. You really do need to get these home. Oh, you can just about see the shine on there. But you really do get the best of both worlds. So if you're not a particularly blingy sort of person, then the interference inks are absolutely wonderful for that. But I really love to be able to blend. Anyway, that's enough chat. So let's get on with it. Let's see actually if I can show you on this one. This one, because it's a larger area of ink, you can see, you get the flat ink there and you can see how well it's blended, and then you can see the shine when I turn it. There you go. So tricky, especially on a bright day. Actually, the sun, although we love to have the sun, of course, but when I'm trying to show you things on camera, it really makes things tricky. So you can see the colours that I'm using there, the Cloud9 ink. I'm using one matte blending ink, which is the Juicy Pineapple, just to give a background. The rest are Colour Shift. So I'm using the Fruit Punch, which is the pink version. So the version in the bottom right corner is how it would appear on black card. The top left corner is how it appears on white card. So I'm using Fruit Punch for the pink. Then the foliage, I'm using a blend of Avocado Gold, which is this lovely, almost woodland moss sort of colour, dare I say, and the Summer Sky, which gives us this lovely lime green colour. So that's going to be a combination. And then I'm using Under the Sea, this blue colour, to create a little bit of the background, because I thought that might be nice to sort of have the sky in the background. That was my thinking behind it anyway. So they're the colours. I will put that slide up again at the end for information. Okay, right, we look a little bit close there. I'm going to come out a little bit. There we are. So I am making a 5x7 card. So the piece of cardstock, the super smooth cardstock that I'm actually stenciling onto, is a little bit smaller, and I'm stenciling onto 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So that will fit nicely onto a 5x7 card once I've matte and layered it. So I will, where's my colour gone? There it is. I will be using the same colours as I've used here. Now, have I gone out of focus? I think I might have a little bit. Right, I'm going to go black for 2 seconds just to refocus the camera. For some reason, I can't refocus it when I'm connected. Okay, so should all be back in focus again now. And we shall brighten that up a little bit. There we are. All this technical stuff going on in the background. Let's just get stenciling, shall we? So you can see actually, it's a useful thing to show you. With the ink pads that are now open, this is the matte blending ink. So this is your absolute original, and this one is from release 1. Okay, so this is the Juicy Pineapple, and you can see that that is very much a felt ink pad. It's quite solid. This one, however, is the Colour Shift and contains all the mica, and they say the colour change on there, but it's more of a foamy ink pad. That is a quite a big difference between the two ink pads, and what you will find is that even the interference inks are the foam pads. So these, when you actually put your stencil brush or the tool that you're using to transfer the ink, this will be a lot softer because it is more foamy base, and this one is a felt base, so this would be quite solid. The felt based ink pads here, like the ink blending ones, because they are chalkier, they've got a chalkier finish, they sit nicer on the felt. Okay, so let's start creating the background. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do it first, which I would generally try and do, but you can add some detail with the background stencils afterwards, and I'll try and do that as well for you, just to show you there's two different ways. And to say, if you want to give this a go, you'll find your way to develop this. But if I can give you a couple of techniques just to get you started. Okay, to start with, then you will, again, as I say, you will have the holes for the pegs for the ultimate on the side. I don't, but that doesn't really matter because this is going to be a lot looser, this style of stenciling at the moment. So I'm going to go with the blue in the background. I'm using stencil brushes on all of the inks here. So actually what I've just had delivered is a new storage system for this new set of inks, because Lisa keeps bringing out new ones and I've run out of space. so I'm going to pick up a tiny amount of ink. Now these ink pads are really, really juicy, and I'm going to have a little bit of a blending mat on the side just to take off the majority of the ink here, okay? Because I don't want the background bold, because that will overpower our flowers. So I'm just going to go probably the two corners just to create a little bit of interest, and I'm going to create the shading from the corners inwards. I'm not going to come right in to the card, because obviously we do need to stencil the flowers a little bit. So I'm going to concentrate the darker of the colour right on the edge of the cardstock like this, and I'm going to work onto opposing corners like this, or opposite corners, and I'm going really, really pale. You can just about see the ink that I've added there. When I move the stencil in a second, you'll see that ink is there. So none of this is exact stenciling. This is all just adding texture to the background. So I've used a little bit of blue. Now, because this has gone really, really light, you won't get the mica effect from these, but you can just about see the detail in there, and that is great. That is just about as light as I want to go, because that allows me to build pattern. And so now I'm coming in with the florals, because I do quite like this one, and I'm going to come in with the Avocado Gold, pick up a tiny amount of ink again, take the most of it off onto the side, and just add some ink. Now looks like I take off too much there, which is fine. I'd rather start with far less ink on my brush than come in with an unblendable splodge of colour, which then I can't do anything else with. So you probably can't just see that there. Let's see if I can just take down that colour a little bit, just so as you can see. There we go. If I take that away now, no, that's a bit trickier. Do you know what? I might just come onto camera too. Yes, there we are. If I do that, then I'm carrying on with that green, really, really pale. Again, you don't want this stenciling to really overpower. So when I take that away, you can just see those flowers in green sitting on top of the blue. So this, honestly, the sun is really giving me some issues. So if I take that down a little bit, oh, there you go. Excuse the workings of the camera on the screen there. I don't know how to take that off at this stage. It's the same camera as I use for the other view, but it's got a mind of its own. I really don't know why. So I'm picking up a little bit more of that green, and I'm just going to come down to the bottom corner here and add a little bit more detail down here. And it really is just a case of building up colour. I don't want to go too mad. You can see there, that's just enough background, I think. So I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to stencil the flowers and then we can add more detail afterwards. So if you wanted to, you can continue across the whole of this piece of card, and you can create your own background to then matte and layer onto. You don't necessarily have to stencil any other detail on top of this, but it's a really nice way to create yourself some design paper, really, with all the stencils that you have. Use your favorite colors. So you can continue that and say, I'll come back to this in a second, because what I want to do is stencil the magnolias on the top. So what I'm going to do now, I've brought in the first stencil, the Magnolia stencil. I think I might keep this view if that works for you. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to position my cardstock so the flowers are down in this area here, which means actually that I'm not using the pegs. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that my card is sitting in an area, and the stencils then can be butted up against the side of the Ultimate here, so I know that I'll be able to replace them and keep the layers perfect. Okay, so you can see here I'm not actually using the holes for the Ultimate because I want this flower to be where it is on the card there. If I were to put this on the holes here, then I'd be a little bit limited as to where I can put the flowers, which for this particular design I don't want to do. The way that I could get around that was using a larger piece of cardstock and then cutting it down afterwards. So that's just my way of thinking for that. So let's get stenciling. So this first layer is going to be very pale again because it's the first layer of the stencils, and we are always going to build on top of this. So you want this layer to be as pale as possible because you're going to build up all the detail on top of this. So you don't want to put so much ink down on this layer that you then can't add extra ink and layers, because then you'll probably start losing the detail in the rest of the stencil layers. So really what I'm doing, I've just picked up my fruit punch brush. You would have noticed I didn't put it in the ink pad. I'm just using what was left on the brush and what was left on the stencil. And when I take that away, you can see that there was more than enough ink on there for me to create that initial base color. Now this is the second of the flower stencils, and this is where I can start building the color up, and you can see from the stencil that I've got an awful lot more color on here. So initially I'm just going to use the color that's on the stencil, you know, just see where I can go with that. And now I can start coming in with some more ink. So I always take off the majority of the ink onto the stencil material first, always, even if I want to build up a lot of color into the flowers, because what that does is gives me that control into building the color into those flowers, and it also allows me to add more color in some areas than others. So if you look at the design on any of Lisa's packaging when you're doing the stenciling, just to get an idea of how the flowers are situated, which way they're facing, whether they're upside down or they're pointing to the sky and whatever, I find that really useful because I like to create more colour at the base of the flowers, regardless of which way they're pointing up, and that way the colour is stronger at the base of the flower and I go paler towards the outside of the flower. For me, I like the way that it looks. You could do it the other way. You could have it darker at the top and then go paler, or you could have it darker at the top, darker at the bottom, and pale in the centre. You'll find your way of doing things, but I like to have the base of the flower a lot darker than the top. That way it gives me a really nice graduation of colour of blend, and gives me the best of both worlds. Actually, it enables me to really have fun with the inks and get the biggest, boldest colour I can out of them, but also it shows you the paler possibilities of them. Just because they're nice, bright and bold in the pad there doesn't mean they need to be that bold on the paper, and sometimes it's nice to go subtle and just build. Okay, so this flower here in particular, it's a full-on flower, so what I tend to do with those, it's not pointing any particular way. With these, I tend to put the most colour in the centre of the flower and work in circular motions from the centre of the flower outwards, so you'll have the strongest colour in the centre there. Let's move that up, and then let's move that down so you can see. Okay, so again, that's just a different way to add shading, but you can see just how pretty this fruit punch colour is. It's beautiful colour. Okay, and then I will always work with what was left on the brush. I mean, you've got a lot of ink on the stencil material there. So once you've got the majority of the colour on the flower where you want it, then just use the rest of the ink to so that you don't waste it, mainly, and always work off what you have left on the brush, but it also builds up that colour gradually into the rest of the flowers. So when I take that away, you can see how pretty those graduations of flowers are. Now, to me, I think you could create a background just like that, just using those two stencils. If you repositioned that somewhere here and do exactly the same again, you can have like a whole cherry blossom type of background design as a background paper, and then perhaps you could stencil and die cut out your magnolia and put that on the top as well, you know. So that's a different way. Don't, you know, just rethinking different ways on how to use your stencils, that because that in itself I think is really pretty. You don't necessarily need the green, although we will carry on today because you know, there's lots of different ways to use Lisa's designs. There really is. So we come on to the first of the floral stencils. Sorry, not the floral, the foliage stencils. And there are 3 all in all. So I'm going to do different combinations of colours. Now this first colour, this first layer, I'm going to come in with the Avocado Gold. And you can see, actually, if you're sort of familiar with how I've blended and how I would use the matte blending inks and how I stencil, you can see that I'm transferring and it's looking exactly the same with the Colour Shift inks as well. So they really are a super blendable ink. So if you haven't used them, or if you're perhaps unsure of how to get started with them, but you're familiar with using the matte blending inks, then just transfer everything that you do from the matte blending into the Colour Shift and you'll get great results. So I'm coming in with the Avocado Gold, and again, similar theory as to how I do the flowers. I start at the base of the leaf with a lot of colour and work out towards the outside of the leaf where it gets paler, and that way you get that graduated colour. You get a really nice sort of airbrushed blend without too much trouble at all, really. So you can see this one here particularly how well that graduation really works, and this is a stunning colour. This is an updated version of Woodland Moss. So I think Woodland Moss and these were going to be my favourite colours for sure. And it's very on brand with Lisa. And I'm actually doing a lot of wedding favours and ribbon stuff for a friend as well. And the ribbon that she's chosen is exactly this colour. So it's I'm super happy at the moment. There's an awful lot of this colour floating around in my craft room, which is great. So you can see I've got that blending on there. So I'm going to take that away, and you can see how that looks with the pink. It looks super, and you can see how the blend of these colours are. Now what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to come in with the Summer Sky, which is a more of a limey colour, and I'm just going to put a little layer of that over the top of all of the Avocado Gold, because I'll tell you why. On the next layer that I'm going to do a lot more of the Summer Sky, because we're going to have sort of 2 tones of green in the foliage, just to give some interest. And by putting or layering over the Summer Sky over the Avocado Gold, it's immediately going to give the 2 layers something in common. So we're coming in, this is stencil 4, so this is the second of the foliage layers, and I'm now stenciling just with the Summer Sky, so you can see the difference in the colour. This is a lot brighter, this is a lot more limey sort of colour. They really do have this super chalk look to them, like the matte blending does. They are really lovely to work with and blend with, but you do get that benefit of when you pick this up and turn it towards the light, you get that that mica there as well. And remember, because they are the Colour Shift, they can actually be blended in exactly the same way onto black as well. So that is that layer done with the Summer Sky, which is another lovely colour, and if I take that away, you can see how that blends with the first layer of foliage. Now, just to make those sort of gel a little bit better with each other, I'm just going to come in similarly as I did on the previous one. I'm just going to come in just with a very light layer of Avocado Gold on top of this one, so they've basically got the same colours on them, but because you've used the different shades in different amounts, the layers are going to look very different, but it just gives the 2 layers that similarity, so they will definitely tone with each other. So hopefully you can see that by adding the Avocado Gold over the top of the brighter green, it just tones it down a little bit, and it just means that the 2 layers do react really nicely together. So again, we have this third layer, so this one is your choice how you want to do this. You can either come in with one of the 2 colours again, you can go a little bit heavier or a little bit darker, but it's just really nice just to have that contrast with all of the foliage layers, I think, isn't it? I mean, when you look at a bunch of flowers, or if you look in the garden, even on one plant, the different ages of the leaves and the different stages of how they've grown, or you know, the leaves are all different colours anyway, so it's nice to be able to bring that into the stenciling, I think, particularly when we have lots of greens. And I think green is probably one of the most useful colours, particularly with Lisa stencils, one of the most useful colours that you can have. A couple of greens, and then your favourite flower colour, whether it be yellow, pink, purple or blue. I think you're well away. Now, what you will notice here, that there's a couple of little areas into the centre of the flowers. Now, what I'm going to do here is come in with the Juicy Pineapple. It's a matte blending ink, so it can definitely layer over the top of what I've added already. But because we don't at the moment have a true yellow in the Colour Shift, I'm going to use that from the matte blending. So the last stencil, we do exactly the same again. There's a couple of areas in the centre of the flowers. I'm going to use my Juicy Pineapple. So the matte blending layers on top of the Colour Shift, no problem at all. And I think Lisa has already said there will be volume 2 or release 2 of the Colour Shift. So I would imagine that there will be a yellow in that release. I don't know for sure, obviously, but I'm very much guessing. Lisa doesn't usually let us down with the colours. So now I'm just coming in with the Avocado Gold and stenciling all of the extra detail onto the leaves. I like to just do that all the way across, so even on the lighter leaves you'll still have that darker colour, and then some of the leaves obviously will have tonal detail on top, which again gives us a nice bit of interest. So this particular layer, I will just make sure that all of those details are stenciled thoroughly all the way through, so you can see that that detail really comes together, and it comes together so quick. I've used 3 colours, 4 if you include the little yellow on in the centre, but 3 colours mainly, and you get so many variations of shading there that it comes together so quick. So I think what I can do now, I can certainly move that. I can see some of this shine come through. I don't know if you can, perhaps just a little bit here. And actually a lot of that, the mica and things will become more noticeable. Oh, there you go. Will become more noticeable as the ink dries as well. So I think this could do with a little bit of extra detailing on here. So like we've added details in the background here, we can actually still do this at this stage as well. So I will continue doing or adding the details. What I will do, make sure that I've got my blending mat again. So I think this time I'm going to pick up some blue, obviously take off the majority of that because I don't want it to go mad on there. And I'm just going to add some of these details, but this time I'm going to come up around the design. Because you can see through the stencil, you can just sort of skirt around the outside of the design. If it goes over the design a little bit, that's fine. And you're going to have your preference of how you want to do that. That's entirely up to you, of course. But it's nice just to bring that design around, I think, right up to this design, the flowers that you've already stenciled. I'm using one of the larger, chunky stencil brushes for this, but if you wanted to have that little bit more control and come into these more intricate details, then you can obviously come in with a smaller stencil brush and stencil right into there as well. So if I just bring that away, you can see now we have this background really coming up close to the areas that we've stenciled there. So I'm just going to continue sort of building that background. I'm coming in with a different design, so come in with a little bit of the bubble wrap here. So I'm starting off with the blue because my way of thinking is like the blue is the sky behind this, but I will introduce some more colours into this as well. So just a little bit of the green just here and there across the bubble wrap, not too much, and say just build this up really slowly because then you're in complete control of where the colour goes. And I like to add a lot of colour sort of around the outside. It sort of frames where you stenciled, so you can see what I've done there. We've got a little bit of extra colour. I don't want to bring the green too close because we've got a lot of green in the flowers already. If you wanted, you could add a little bit of pink. You could do it that way as well. It's just a case of sort of playing around. I quite like that the way that it is, and it looks totally different to the one that I've done there. You will always come up with different and actually the colour on this one is a lot stronger than on this one as well. So that's the beauty of stenciling. You have, even if you only have a couple of different sets, just use different colours, different intensities, and you will always come up with a slightly different design. Okay, so I think what I can do is bring that away now. Now, I've even remembered that I need to emboss. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring in my embossing folder, and I think what is nice, because this is going to be a nice single sheet that is just going to go straight flat onto the card. The embossing folder is literally just going to emboss the Magnolia stem, so all of this detail around the outside will still stay flat, but it will still enhance the flowers. So it would be really nice to have this as the 3D image in the center there. So if we can line this up. which is very easy to line up. And I've just noticed that because I didn't line this up straight onto the cardstock, I'm going to get a line down the side here. So that's my own fault. So I would probably leave that one as a flat. So I think what I might do is emboss this one instead, because this one is lined up better on the cardstock. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I've lined up the design in the embossing folder. So now I can run this through. Now, because this is embossing and this isn't going to damage any plates, I can use Lisa's machine. I'm afraid I think I'm probably just as bad as Tina at this. I still haven't used my new die cutting machine to die cut anything yet, and the plates are still pristine, I'm afraid. Now I've actually, oh no, there we are. Yes, so I shall use my plates here. Okay, just need to move everything out of the way. Okay. Okay. So we can see now actually that is super, and what that does, that has actually enhanced the colour shift on there as well. So you can see that I've embossed that. You can see from the back. You can see that the details there on, it's so hard to show you the embossing. Let me change cameras, see if I can show you on there. If I there you go. You can actually see the colour shift on there on the petals as well, on the embossing. So if I just flip that over, you can see that it has been embossed. But you've also got the detail, and this really makes it a nice textured card actually. So if you were to then mount this onto a card, it looks super pretty with a sentiment to go on there as well. Now I think what I might do actually with this one, I am going to die cut this. Just to show you how this looks when the image is die cut for you. I'll die cut it and then I will emboss it as well. So we can line that up. And I'm just going to tape that down in a couple of areas so that doesn't move. Okay, so that's die cut. That's die cut with my other machine. And then I shall emboss this and go to Lisa's machine. Okay, so let's take that away. I was being very gentle with this background here, because what you can do, we have the background here. That little section has come out of there, but that's fine. I would keep that as it is at this stage, so don't throw anything away. So I can now emboss here. Obviously this now fits into that embossing folder and doesn't overlap as it did before, and that was fine because I did want the stems to be positioned more over to the side on that cardstock. So I could have left that piece as it was and just mounted that straight onto, I'm just going to come this way again. So I could have mounted this straight onto the card as it was with the sentiment, and I would have gone away like that. But because it was centered over, it didn't run through the embossing folder quite well enough, but die cutting it out, you see, then you can stick this down to the card. Then you can replace your image embossed. Replace this section here. So you'd use your glue and pop that down. And then what you can do, you can mount this die cut now onto 3D foam. I'll just put a couple of pieces of 3D foam on here. I won't stick this down, but you can mount this back into the aperture that's been created. So you have this card, this version or style of card, but in a slightly different format. So you can, again, have a little bit of fun. You can sort of batch make these. You can have a couple super flat like this if they need to be posted, because I mean, I have to post all my stuff from Ireland and it costs a fortune. So sometimes you want it the flatter the better. Or you can say die cut this out, but then replace that back into the aperture there. You get the benefit of having that little bit of a shadow around the outside, which I think is really nice, but it also gives you, I'm not going to stick this down at this stage, but it also gives you sort of a 3D nature, and it gives you that really it gives you that 3D look, but not too much. You're not building up the card too much. So I think that's a really nice way to use your dies and embossing folder that way as well. So you can, of course, where my sentiments gone? I've got brushes rolling all over. So there's a couple of different ways, and then you can add your sentiment on there, which I think works really nicely, or your sentiment that way around. So you've got two quite different cards, actually. They look very different, even though you've used the same set. So it's a gorgeous colour. And imagine using this in anthracite would be really nice, and trying to make these into white flowers with the green around the outside, or yellow flowers, or whichever colour you like, actually. I quite like the pink. It's really nice and bright and sort of pops really well at the moment with this sun. What I think I might show you, I've got a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you how I created the sentiments. Now, normally I just stamp in black. That would be my go-to. I really like just how crisp and clean it is, but I thought I'd try something a little bit different today. So I've brought in my Ultimate 2, and I'm using the removable stamping platform. If you have Ultimate 1, you'd obviously got the lid or other stamping platforms that you're happy to use. So I'm going to take myself some cardstock. Say this is Lisa's Super Smooth cardstock. I know that things stamp really nicely onto this. And I shall take a sentiment. I think I'll go for the happy birthday one because it's a nice large stamp, actually. So you'll see exactly what I mean with this technique. So remember I said that these sentiments here are slightly two-tone, just to add a little bit of interest. So I'm going to pick up my stamp on the stamping grid here, and I'm going to stamp it a couple of times. So firstly, I'm going to stamp with my colour of choice. So I'm going to use the Fruit Punch, and just to ink that up. Now remember that the Colour Shift are a soft ink pad, so you really want to have lots of light tapping, because if you press too much, you will blur all the details of the word stamps, particularly, which you don't want to do. So it's always better to do lots of little light taps, and if needs be, you can go back in and stamp for a second time. So I'm just stamping that down like so, and I can lift that, but that stamps perfectly. You look how well that is. Now, because that is a larger stamp, and I noticed on this one here, you do get a little bit of the mica actually come through onto your stamped impression. You'll see a lot of the mica left on the stamp also, but you will get some onto the stamp. but it's just nice actually. We're not necessarily stamping this for that quality, or no, we're not stamping it for that characteristic of the ink to have the mica. We're stamping it because we want to have the coordination of the color with what we've stenciled, but you can see it stamps perfectly well. So what I'm doing now, I've come in with the Swift Dry ink, and I've chosen the Flint, which is the grey, so it's not going to be quite so bold. And this time I'm just going to very lightly just ink the bottom of this stamp. You can see actually here that there's only a section of it that has been stamped with this darker colour. So go really gentle on that. Then obviously we can come in and we can re-stamp this. I know that I'm going to stamp back over the same impression because nothing has moved, and that's the joy of using a stamping platform. But taking that away, what you can see now is that happy's just got a little bit bolder, I suppose. And again, each time that you do this, it's going to look slightly different, but it just gives that sentiment just that little bit of a pop, I think, just to make it stand out a little bit, particularly when you're stamping with a lighter colour. I think it just makes it stand out that little bit more, and just something a little bit different. It just adds that little bit of interest as well. So I've done it with the green and I've done it with the fruit punch as well. So that's how I get that two-tone stamping there. So that's my cards for today. Again, they look quite different. There's lots of different combinations. You can go to town with your different die cuts, use some of your fundamental dies as well to create different backgrounds. You can easily put this onto a smaller A6 card. You can easily scale it to go onto a square card also. So I mean, use different colors, lots of different ways, and the design team have put lots and lots of different samples in the Facebook group as well. So that is Lisa's pick of the week, the Magnolia stems. Lovely set to use. You get your layering stencils with a die, and you get your 3D embossing folder, and the pick of the week, you get the two together as well. Plus we have the benefits of using the really pretty Colohr Shift card inks as well, which if you have got them and you're frightened of using them, I would definitely just crack them out and give them a go. So I shall leave that with you there today. Thanks so much for joining me. Apologies I haven't looked at your comments as we've gone along. I shall sit down and have a read with those, but if you have any questions, pop them in the group and we do our best to answer them for you for sure. So enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. Remember, Lisa isn't with us actually on Friday, I don't think, but I'm pretty sure that she'll have a video scheduled for you to watch anyway. And I shall see you all again next week. Take care, everyone.